Okay, Richard Utting from SharpshootingUK here with an exciting new review. A lot of people in the UK and indeed around the world have been realising for a few years that Sightron are doing unbelievable resolution for your money, and also good repeatable turrets and construction reliability. The warranty's good. These guys are making a product that, you know, deserves our attention, and I'm a big fan of the S3 tactical series. I used the first generation with the huge mill dots, and then the next one with the little dot, and then the later one with the nice sorted MOA ret, and they just get better and better. I've dialed oodles of minutes on left, right and centre, never had a moment of doubt. Big fan. I like the flat edge-to-edge resolution that they give in that sort of Night Force style. They're real good. I shoot with Big Size 66 all the time, and he uses an 8-32 and a 6-24. They're in every camp you go to, you're going to find some Sightron S3s, and no one's got a bad thing to say. So they have come out with a new product that is really exciting. They've been rolling in some illuminated reticles, and this is present and correct. This is the S-TAC 2.5 to 17.5, 7 times mag range, by 56, with the latest MOA ret illuminated dot. So that's quite ambitious. 7 times mag range, oodles of internal adjustment, illuminated dot. You're looking at, got to be $2,000, right? No, this is £810 in the UK, new. Now that's something. And then you see a little tag that says made in Philippines, and you think, there we go, that's that. That'll be rubbish. Well, think again. Think again. We will get to the optics comparisons. I've compared it to a Zeiss 3-12 Duralit today, which is a good sharp scope, an IOR 9-36, Night Force BR. We'll talk about that later, but let's just run through the specifications. I won't geek out on all the details, you can look them up, but here are the pertinent points. Illuminated is new. 7 times mag range, always good. A 2.5 times scope is, you know, fully lamping, close range stalking, rim fire, call it what you will. 2.5 is very versatile. The problem is you only ever get 10 out of a 2.5 scope, and this one you're at 17.5, which means you can shoot things at hundreds of yards. Very versatile. Normally you have to compromise at the bottom end with tunneling and loss of resolution and brightness at the top. It's hard to make a 7 times scope. So again, we'll talk about the optics later, but these guys have pulled an absolute miracle out of the bag here, despite the lenses or some part of the construction being in the Philippines. I don't know how they've done it. I've heard they've taken their own engineers out there, bought the factory, own machines, things like that. But one way or another, the optics are quite remarkable at this money and double the money. Anyway, moving on. Don't get too excited about that yet. Nice big 15-minute per turn turrets, 56mm objective, you get a free baseball cap, you get the tools, and you get sun blockers. What the hell do you call those things? Brain fade. Email me what it is, guys. Lens caps. Right, there we go. So yeah, the only thing that annoys me intensely, I've been on about this before, if you look at the turrets here for windage, there we go. You go a minute left and it says 14. Unforgivable. 2 minutes, 13. What the hell is that? So I'll have to get some of my turret wraps from Custom Turret Systems. Sort that out in a jiffy. But what kind of thinking is that? Progressive company, listening to what their customers want, bringing out great products, and then a minute of left says 14. Unbelievable. So listen up, Sightron. But yeah, other than that, everything's been really well thought out. I won't talk about the repeatability of these turrets because I haven't tested them, but I will, and I can certainly vouch for the exact track system that Sightron use. It, you know, we've dialed them on at oranges at 800 yards. and then we've come down to 200 yards and just been spot on, you know. And I've done things like that 100 times. It's just never been a cause of concern, put it that way. And we don't just set it at 1,000 yards and shoot. We dial all day, we do, because we'll be shooting a rabbit at 750 and then one at 600 and then one at 550, and then we'll turn around, take our 6 minutes of wind off and put it on the other way. We'll shoot at 300, then 1,000. We're dialing all day, and the Sightron has never led to any concern in years of use. So, you know, if that system is used in this scope, then that's not going to be a problem. I like the IR dot. It doesn't light up the whole ret like my old IOR system does, and universally too bright. It starts nice and dim, you can't even see it, and then by about 4 it started to come through. Obviously it depends enormously on the ambient light, but through it comes, and it's just the center dot. There's no bleed, it just lights up, and between each of the 11 notches, I like the fact it goes up to 11, there is an off. So it's kind of 1 off, 2 off, 3 off, 4. You see what I mean? So it's never hard to switch it on or off at your last setting, which is really useful. Standard little battery in there, 2032. You're never going to be short of them. Fast focus eye bell, completely essential to me, because I play with my diopter a lot. That's quality. I like this NXS style metal knurled ring here for the mag. Nice and smooth, not too tight. Feels like you could drive over it with a tank. Side focus is a little stiff, but I don't mind that. That'll loosen up in time. It just feels quality. There's certainly no slop in it. I mean, you have to really give it a turn, and that's properly screwed on, that is. I was reading on one of the forums recently something interesting about the turrets. A guy was saying that when you undo this Torx here, which by the way is very quick and easy, you can, it just screws onto a spindle, and the spindle isn't notched. So the advantage of that is you can always perfectly align your dots. Get the parallax out there, okay, you see? And I could spin that round and get it straight on. The problem with a notched system is that you find you're often half out, and you line it up as best you can, and you're like that, and you think, oh God. So I do not consider this a weakness. In fact, I would rather have it this way. But there were guys saying if you don't have the screw that sort of does this up going into a spline, then it could slip. Yeah, I suppose it could, but I'd rather make sure I did it up just right and got it lined up and done up correctly, knowing that everything was spot on the right point, you know. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there. But again, nice, quick, easily resettable, 15 minutes per turn. Good clicks. I mean, you're not going to miss them. Grand. Oodles of adjustment. I don't know what the amount is, but it's 100 minutes or 80 minutes or something, absolutely more than you should ever need if your gun is vaguely straight. Yeah, we'll talk about resolution later. I'm hopping up and down excited about the resolution because and the optics as a whole, because I, in summary, would be completely delighted if I got optics of this quality with no distortion or change in the eye box at the bottom end and the top. I'd be delighted if it were a $2,000 scope. It's stunningly good. Stunningly good for £800. A Sightron of, well, to use our American friends' expression, they've smashed it out of the park. They really have. What a scope this little thing is. As an aside, quite an important one I think these days, this rheostat is far enough up that your night vision add-on clamp, your DSA, fits on there no bother. And I can confirm that with the parallax, side parallax here, coming down so fine, so close, it is great for night vision, literally from your feet all the way out. The ret is a little fine. I love a nice fine ret, but it's a little fine at night. But the good news is you can just put the dot on, the illumination on, and then you've got this lovely little dot. So I can certainly certify that it works well with DIY night vision, and that's very useful. It makes it even more versatile. Here's a look from the other side. Yeah, I think the warranty's really good on these if you have any problems. Can't see that you would, but if you do, you know, it's important. I think they're known to look after you, certainly in the UK. AIM Field Sports have got a superlative reputation for doing the right thing. So yeah, this is some package. You know, I think if this had a different badge on it, it could easily have been a couple of $1,000s plus, and it would be a good scope at that. This is a good scope in any company. I really can't say enough about how impressed I am. The heritage for me of the S3 series is there. I respect them. I've said before that like for like, I'd buy an S3 over an NXS. I'd buy an S3 over a lot of scopes. They've got everything ticked these days, apart from that windage turret, which is easily fixed. You know, they're quality, but to have a scope of this spec at that price with some part of the construction made in the Philippines, it's not a huge leap to think that it might be for a slightly lower market, but it isn't. This is a high roller. So pick one up, guys. You are really not going to regret it. Very versatile, unfussy eye box from 2.5 right up to 17.5. No changes, no messing, no tunneling, no nothing. A red hot sharp all the way through. Killer resolution, like I say. It isn't a colourful, punchy scope. It doesn't look wow like, say, Swarovski, but it's true and neutral, which is actually, in my opinion, and quite a lot of other people's, I feel, it's actually more valid for long-range rifle work, having a true colour reproduction. So I like that. Quality build by the looks of it. Outstanding. Well done, Sightron. I'm going to check the new S-TAC Sightron, which seems to have classic S3 glass to me, which is a very good thing. Sharp as hell. Excellent edge to edge, and that neutral colour rendition that is very typical of them. Then I've got the very bright 3 to 12 Duralit here. I think at the higher ends of that mag range, once you get past, say, 4 or 5, it is as sharp as almost anything out there. Very, very good. They're known to have a little bit of what you would call loss of edge to edge at 3 times at the bottom. But then as you get going up the mag range, they really are world class. And then I've got my very trusty IOR 9 to 36, which has got all that quality Euro feel about it, you know, massive field of view, lovely resolution, pure quality, had it for years. Nothing seems to be good enough to get me to move away from it. So 3 different scopes, very different. I will have a look about, and then I'll record to the camera my thoughts on sharpness and such like in this very poor weather. It's very grey, it's nearly dusk, it's pretty low light really, so we will see how they stand out. Testing at 17.5 times on the S-TAC and the IOR, which is a bit unreasonable really, because that's the S-TAC sort of flat out and the IOR comfortably in the middle of its range, but be that as it may, it's like comparing the IOR to the S3, 8 to 20, 8 to 32 or 6 to 24, which I've done many times. It's the same thing. The IOR is punchier, slightly warmer, better field of view, good chunk better field of view, like a Zeiss Victory or whatever, you know, really good European field of view. But the Sightron glass is very, very sharp, very flat edge to edge, and frankly just as easy to see what you're seeing, particularly when it comes to resolution, picking things out. It's right there. So made in Philippines, I wouldn't worry about that, not by the look of this. I mean, you know, you're certainly talking several steps above an Elite 6500, for example, which I've also used extensively. I'm a big fan of the 2.5 to 16, but this is this is much better, much sharper. So I'm really impressed and reassured by that at 17.5 in this low light against the IOR, which really is a spot-on scope. The field of view is not as good as the Zeiss here or the IOR, but it's still good. It's much better than, say, Night Force BR. Certain scopes, known to have poor field of view. It's certainly not one of them. It's just not class leading like some of the European scopes can manage. It's about 10-15% behind them, it seems to me. So yes, that was at 17.5. I'm now going to have a look at 12 and get the Zeiss Duralit in the mix as well. Okay, at 12 times, it's absolutely right there. The S-TAC compared to the Zeiss and the IOR resolution is completely comparable. They have their different idiosyncrasies with regard to how the picture looks, colour cast wise, depth of field wise, but sharpness wise, resolution, edge to edge, it is right there with those two. They're all easily coping, picking out tiny little branches at 200 yards. Very good. Okay, at 9 times, which is the bottom of the IOR's range, they are all very, very good. Nothing to report. Tack sharp edge to edge, bucketfuls of resolution right across the image. They're all world class. Okay, we've now lost the IOR because I'm now testing at 3 times. Actually, about 3.5. The Duralit now is starting to show why it isn't the price of a Victory HT. It is tack sharp in the middle, but there is a ring around the edge, call it the last 5%, that is softer, quite a bit softer. And as you pan, it swims, obviously, because it's not edge to edge sharp. It doesn't make a jot of difference in your shooting because the middle really is outstanding. But this is where the compromises are with the Duralit. I can totally live with it. You've got to bear in mind that that field of view that is swimming at the lower mags is free anyway. None of the other scopes in its class comparable to it have got that much field of view anyway, it seems to me. So it doesn't bother me, but you can see there that that's what's happening. The S-TAC is spot on still. Spot on edge to edge, no tunnelling at all. Lots of scopes, COF 5 to 25 S&B, major tunnelling at the bottom end, which means that as you wind the mag down, nothing happens to your field of view, you just see more scope tube, hence the tunnel. Which is pretty poor really, because that means that, for example, your 5 to 25 isn't. It's a 7.5 to 25. So it's never popular. And I suspected that the 2.5 to 17.5 S-TAC would have to do that. I can report happily that it absolutely does not. 2.5 means 2.5. So that's very exciting. Nor does it lose any edge-to-edge clarity. I really am very, very impressed. Right, at minimum mag, that's 2.5 for the S-TAC. There is no tunnelling, no reduction in edge-to-edge sharpness. It's quite remarkably good at the bottom, just as it is at the top. Eyebox isn't fussy. I'm really, 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 really impressed. The Duralit, which I'm a massive fan of, sharp as can be, unbelievable value. As you come down, at 3 you've got a bit of a ring around the edge that isn't quite so sharp as I've just mentioned, and it's very sharp in the middle, but you can see that something has changed, as it were, as you zoom down. Get to 3.6, 3.75, problem solved. But there is that little change right at the bottom. Very forgivable at this money, and it is razor sharp in the middle, but it is very common. The S-TAC just doesn't do it. Now, let me say this loud and clear. The Made in Philippines tag on the bottom of this scope, do not let that concern you. This is one of the best wide range by that I mean high magnification range scopes that I've ever looked through. It smashes an Elite 6500 into next week for sharpness as you zoom in. You expect them to dim down a bit as you get past sort of 5 times mag range. It just doesn't. I can't believe they've done this for that money. Incredible. And I'm comparing it here to some good scopes. The IOR is quality. The Zeiss Duralit is sharp and clear and wide and you know, very, very good. And bear in mind, that's a 3 to 12. That's not trying to do 2.5 to 17.5. And still it has to compromise a little bit at the bottom end. The S-TAC 2.5 to 17.5 optically, flawless. I am so impressed.